How's it going, folks? Jeff Benjamin with 9 to 5 Mac. In this video, I go in depth with hardware security keys in iOS 16.3. But what are security keys? And more importantly, how do you use them? In this video, we're going to break it all down. Check it out.
Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Mac. Be sure to thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and then enable notifications with the bell icon so you won't miss any upcoming videos.
So one of the most fundamental things to keep in mind about hardware security key support in iOS 16.3 is the fact that these keys are direct replacements for the 6-digit Apple ID verification codes that are sent to your trusted devices like this right here when you try to sign in. So when you enable security keys on your account, then you will no longer get these Apple ID verification codes sent to your trusted devices. So the security key works as that second factor in the two-factor authentication. The first factor, of course, is your password, and the security key replaces the second factor, which was previously that 6-digit code. So now that we have that understood, why use a security key at all? Well, it's an optional advanced security feature designed for people who want extra protection from targeted attacks such as phishing or social engineering scams. So high-profile individuals are especially targets for these types of scams where an attacker will try to get that second factor, that 6-digit code. Well, if you have a hardware security key, they can't do that. So what is the requirement for using security keys? We're going to talk about that right now. Apple notes that you need at least 2 FIDO certified security keys that work with Apple devices. You also need iOS 16.3 installed or any of the analogous sister operating systems. So that includes iPadOS 16.3, macOS Ventura 13.2, etc. You also need two-factor authentication enabled. You'll need a passcode enabled on your device. You'll need a modern web browser if you're logging in on the web. We'll talk more about that as we go through, but here you can see on my iPhone, I have iOS 16.3 installed and ready to go. So we're going to open up settings, then go to your name and then tap password and security. And there you can see right here, two-factor authentication is enabled. So I have verified that we have two-factor auth enabled. Chances are you have two-factor auth enabled on your device as well. If not, be sure to set that up. Next, you also want to make sure you have a passcode enabled on your device. So I do have that here. I'm going to just go ahead and verify. Don't look at my passcode, please. All right, so now let's talk about compatible keys. So we're going to go back to settings, our name and password and security, and then tap add security keys. And this outlines which keys are compatible. Basically, you need a FIDO certified security key. These are third-party keys. Apple doesn't actually make these keys, so you buy these from third parties. I got these keys off of Amazon. This is a Fashion key, I think the Fashion ePass, and you can see it has a USB Type A connection on one side. You have a touch sensor in the middle. These are secured by NXP Semiconductors. Fun fact, they co-authored or co-designed, I guess, NFC with Sony. So NFC is a direct result of NXP and Sony. So you can see again, USB-A, you can combine this with one of these dongles here. So I have a lightning dongle. If I want to connect this to my iPhone, I can do so just like that using this little camera connection adapter. I can also use this similar adapter, but this time it has a USB-C port on the end. So this is going to work with the Mac, modern Macs, or with an iPad. Here is another security key. This is a Yubico key, and it's called the security key CNFC. Say that 3 times fast. But the nice thing about this key, as you can probably tell, it has USB-C built in. So you don't need any sort of dongles or adapters if you're connecting it to a modern Mac or to an iPad with USB-C. Now this YubiKey 5 NFC, it's interesting. It looks similar to the Fashion key. You have the USB-A port on one side. You have the little touch sensor in the middle there. But the thing about that is multi-protocol support. So we'll talk about that and what that means here in just a second. So here are some of the example keys that Apple lists as being compatible and FIDO certified: the YubiKey 5 CNFC, the Fashion ePass. So these are keys that I've obviously just showed you. But as long as your keys are FIDO certified, they are compatible with FIDO 2 and or U2F. A lot of times they'll have both protocols enabled, FIDO 2 and U2F, then this should work with security keys in iOS 16.3. So The cool thing is you can configure these keys by plugging them into your Mac, running the YubiKey manager. So I just plugged it in, and you can see if you go to interfaces, you see the two interfaces, USB and NFC, and then you see the two types of protocols there, FIDO2 or, like I mentioned earlier, FIDO U2F. Basically, FIDO2 is like an advanced version of FIDO U2F, but you can disable one of these protocols. So if I disable FIDO2 and save, now only the FIDO U2F will be enabled, but that will still work with security keys. Or I could do the opposite and just enable FIDO2 and then do it like that. What's interesting though is that if you add FIDO2 first and then re-enable U2F, it'll actually view that single key as two keys. Just a little FYI. You wouldn't want to do that obviously because that kind of defeats the purpose of having a backup copy or a backup of your security key. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that YubiKey 5 has a lot of different protocols there, not just FIDO U2F or FIDO2, but OpenPGP, OAuth, OTP, etc. So none of those are really relevant to the iOS 16.3 hardware security key support. But if you want to use these keys for other applications, these various protocols are available to you. Okay, so now let me show you how to add security keys in iOS 16.3. So you want to go to settings, you want to go to your name, password and security, and then tap add security keys. And then you'll see this page here. You just tap add security keys again. And now it tells you you need 2 security keys. So as I stated before, this makes sure that you can sign into your account even if you lose a key. Now you have to have at least 2 keys to enable hardware security keys, but you can add up to 6 keys if you wish to. Now, interesting little note here, during setup, you're signed out of inactive devices, and Apple deems an inactive device is a device associated with your Apple ID that you haven't used or unlocked in more than 90 days. So these will automatically be signed out when you add your security keys. And if your device can't be updated to compatible software, say it's an older device, you won't be able to sign back into it unless you disable hardware security keys, of course. So let's go ahead and show you how to add these. So we're going to tap continue and give it a second here. And then using your passcode is what serves as the key to unlock your encrypted data. And now you can add your first security key. And since you're adding it on an iPhone, there's NFC capability, so that makes it super easy. You don't need any dongles or anything like that. You just grab your key, place it on the back at the top of your iPhone like this, hold it there for just a second, and there you go. The key's added, just like that. So it wants you to give it a name. It gives you the default name there, Yubico with NFC, but I'm going to go ahead and just call it Blue. And then we'll tap next, and once it adds it here, it wants you to add your second key now. So what happens if we try to re-add the first key? Let me show you what happens. You've already added this security key to your account, so use another key. So again, having those 2 keys, just in case you lose one, you're still able to access your account. So we're going to try this Fashion key. And like the Yubico, this one is also NFC enabled. So we'll simply hold it on the back of our iPhone like that. Find this one, you have to kind of be a little patient. See, it wants to prompt that NFC tag for the website, but if you just are patient, there we go. So now it adds that key. So there's the Fashion ePass. So we'll go ahead and give that a name as well. And we'll just backspace a little bit and just call it Fashion ePass. All right, then tap next. And now it wants you to review your active devices. So these are all the currently signed in devices. The thing about security keys is this: when you enable security keys, all the devices that are currently signed in stay signed in unless they are deemed the inactive device that you haven't used in 90 days, like I talked about earlier. But all these devices are active devices. If you tap the little eye, you get some details about each of these devices. But it's just important to know that once you add hardware security keys, these devices don't have to actually re-authenticate. They are grandfathered in, so to speak, even if they're running older versions of iOS like 16.2 on this 14 Pro. But if you find something in this list that you think to yourself, hey, I don't want that actually to have access, all you do is you just check it and then you select sign out. You can check multiple if you want to do that. But in this case, I'm just going to sign out of my iPad Mini 6. So let's go ahead and try it. And then you confirm just by tapping sign out of device again. And it will sign out of that device and then move you on to the next screen, which confirms that your security keys have been added. So Apple gives you some suggestions to store your security keys separately and in a safe place. You'll need your Apple ID password, of course, as that first factor, and then one of your keys when you sign in to your account on a new device or on the web. And again, you can add more keys if you wish to do so. But Apple makes it really clear, you are responsible for maintaining access to your security keys. If you lose all of your trusted devices and security keys, you could be locked out of your account permanently. Now, that does sound ominous, and Apple is right to state this, but even if you lose all of your keys, as long as you have trusted devices, you'll be able to fall back on that 6-digit verification code for your Apple ID. The problem occurs when you lose all your keys and all your trusted devices, then you have issues. All right, so now let's talk about removing keys and adding keys. I'm going to tap security keys here. I'm going to show the first 2 keys that I've added. So if I tap on blue, you can see its name, the date it was added, and a remove key option. Same thing for the Facian. Now watch what happens when I tap remove key. You're rejected because you have to have at least 2 security keys at all times. So you'll need to add a 3rd key before you can remove one of the first 2. So I'm going to go ahead and tap add security key, put in my passcode, and now add a security key. But this time, I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm going to use that little dongle, the lightning to USB-A, and I'm just going to insert the key like this. And then you'll see that touch sensor light up. You simply tap that sensor like that. You don't actually have to hold it that long. But now it adds that key, and now you're able to give that key a name. But the point is, you added that 3rd key, as you can see there, and that's going to allow you to remove one of the first 2 keys, because now you have 3 keys and you only need 2 as a bare minimum. So I'll go in here and remove this key, and notice no error message. It just simply says security key has been removed. So now I just have those 2. So if I go back, you'll notice that it still remembers that 3rd key under security key. So I just basically need to refresh, and to do that, I simply go back and go back in, and you'll see now it shows just 2 keys. Okay, so let's talk about how to actually use these keys to authenticate. So Apple outlines some ways that you can use security keys when signing into your Apple ID on a new device or on the web, when resetting your Apple ID password or unlocking your Apple ID, and of course when adding additional security keys, you'll need that key as well. And by the way, Apple suggests keeping keys in different places. So now let's talk about actually using this key to log in to manage my Apple ID on the web. So I'm doing this manually. Just going to tap the login button. And now you can see you get a notification telling you, hey, your Apple ID, blah, 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 is being used to sign into your account. So that's just a nice FYI that it sends to your trusted devices. And that's just nice to know when someone's trying to sign in with your Apple ID. It appeared on this device because this is a trusted device as well, of course. So now I'm going to tap continue, and now you can use your security key. You're prompted to do so when logging into Apple's website here. So now I'm just going to use this Yubico key. Just going to place it behind just like that, and bam, that's it. You're logged in. No 6-digit codes to deal with being sent to another device. Nothing you have to type in. You simply hold it up because it's NFC enabled right there on the iPhone. Pretty nice. All right, so now in this example, I'm going to sign in to a new device, quote unquote. So I'm going to put my Apple ID in there, put my password in, go ahead and tap on return, and it's going to request your security key to log in. So let's go ahead and do it again. Let's grab our security key and place it back there, and there we go. So we are now authenticated. Now we can add a trusted number if we want to do that. I'm not, but it's signing in just like that. Go ahead and put our passcode in and put our iPad's passcode in. But eventually you'll see I'm going to be able to log in to this device with my Apple ID using my security keys. Now the same thing applies to the Mac. So if you're running Ventura 13.2 or later and you go to settings and you go to your Apple ID and you tap or you click password and security, you'll see where it has security keys. You can see the 2 keys that I added on my iPhone are available here to edit if I wish. So I can add keys, remove keys. Obviously I only have 2, so I can't remove until I add one, but I can do all that right from macOS. Now watch what happens when I try to log into iCloud via Safari. Sign in, you get this prompt, the Apple ID prompt, asking you to log in with your already existing and verified Apple ID. So watch what happens. It just logs you in because it knows that's you, because you're already using this device. You're already logged into this device. Now watch what happens if I log out and sign into iCloud manually by clicking the use a different Apple ID link. So just click where it says use a different Apple ID. So now it's signing in as if this was on a private device. So I'm going to sign in here and you'll see exactly what I mean in just a second. So you get the 2-factor auth prompt, click continue, and now you see use security key, right? So no NFC, of course, on the Mac. What to do? Well, you simply grab one of your security keys and plug it into your Mac's USB-C port. So you really start to see where this Ubico key with the USB-C connection comes in handy, because no dongles needed. You simply plug it in like this, and then you verify by simply tapping the touch sensor like that. Once you do that, you'll see this. It automatically will log you in. Just click on trust and you're good to go. Just like that. Now, what if you try to log into a device running older firmware? So here I have this iPhone 14 Pro running 16.2. The question is, what is going to happen if I try to log into this device with hardware security keys enabled? So I'm going to do that right now. My Apple ID, logging in manually. Tap next. You'll get a prompt saying that your Apple ID is being used to sign into an account, but that's not what we want to pay attention to. We want to pay attention to this right here. Software update required. Update this iPhone to the latest version of iOS to sign in. So because this is running an older firmware, 16.2, I'm not able to log in with that device. And there are several reasons why you would not be able to log in. Number one, you can't sign into iCloud for Windows. You can't sign into older devices that can't be updated to a software version that supports security keys. Now, this device that I just showed you can be updated, so that's no problem. Child accounts and managed Apple IDs aren't supported, and so on. But what happens when you try to do the same thing on something like, for instance, an Apple TV that's running an older version of tvOS? So I'm going to go ahead and try to log in, add a default user, sign in manually. All right, guess what happens? Yep, sign in with security keys isn't supported on this Apple TV. Security keys aren't supported on Apple TV. You can sign in with your iOS device or sign in with a different Apple ID that isn't using security keys. So the cool thing is though, if you're using your iOS 16.3 device, you can use your iPhone to sign into this Apple TV, even though it's running an older version. So sign in with iPhone. And when you do that, now you're able, because the iPhone's already authenticated, you're able to log in. Super simple, super easy. So because this device, this Apple TV, can't directly interface with hardware security keys, it's of course relying on the iPhone that you use to sign in. But say you have that device running older firmware and maybe perhaps that device can't be updated, you can always go in and remove those security keys and then sign into your device and then add the security keys back. The cool thing is it basically just falls back to your 6-digit verification codes for 2-factor authentication, as long as you of course have a trusted device. So your security keys were removed, and now you're going to be able to log into this device manually, even though you're running 16.2 on this device, because we removed hardware security keys, and now as you can see, it falls back onto those 6-digit codes. So I just simply enter that code and I'm able to log in on this older device. And then once I do that, I can simply go back and re-add the hardware security keys if I want to do that. Super simple, super easy. So let me go ahead and do that now. I'll speed it up a little bit so the keys have been added just like that. So I have my 16.2 device logged in and I have my 16.3 device with my security keys re-added. All right, so now let's talk about setting up new devices running older software. So this is a fresh setup, like a fresh install. So you have an option. You can use the quick start, which is highly recommended. It makes things so much easier, but this time I want to set up manually. And I want to show you what happens when I try to log in manually to a device running something older than 16.3. You can see software update required. Update this iPhone to the latest version of iOS to sign in, okay? Not a big surprise there, but what happens when we use Quick Start? So again, sort of like the same principle with the Apple TV, because I'm quick starting using the 16.3 device, then it will actually allow me to go ahead and set up and log in to my Apple ID because it's being set up with the device already authenticated. So that's the way to do it. If you're setting up a device that has older firmware, use Quick Start because it'll basically inherit the authentication from the updated device, which is super cool, super easy, right? So we're going to just go through this real quick just to show you how I can get to the home screen. It's setting up the Apple ID. It does request the password, but I enter that, enter my passcode, and now I'm all set up. So I can just go through this real quick, and there we go, all logged in with my Apple ID, even on this older device running 16.2. Now let me show you setting up new devices running 16.3 or later. So this is obviously going to be very easy because both devices are running 16.3. You can do quick start, but this time I'm going to do manually with 16.3. And now you can see it's going to prompt for my key because it's running 16.3. All the hooks are there to prompt for the key. So I'll just go ahead and use NFC. And now I am able to authenticate just like that. Super simple, super easy again. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been a look at security keys. Now, as I've emphasized in the previous videos I've done on this subject, most users are probably going to want to stick to the 6-digit codes, but if you decide you want to use hardware security keys, this is the one I recommend because it has the USB-C port, makes it easy to plug into modern Macs, modern iPads, and you have NFC built right in for the iPhone as well. So ladies and gents, that has been a look at security keys in iOS 16.3. If you like this video, be sure to check out my iOS 16.3 walkthrough and check out this video where I walk through 85 plus different home screen tips and tricks. You don't want to miss it. This is Jeff with 9to5Mac.